Can everyone see and hear me? I am apologize. I think we have a few little technical difficulties, but yeah, everything's good. All right, that's great. Yeah, so hello everyone. I'm Arthur, and today I'm going to be doing a little workshop on custom landmarks. Basically doing a little introduction and kind of doing a little deep dive as well into the technology, how it works, and yeah, basically guiding you through the process of how to make custom landmarkers on Snap, Snap's platform Lens Studio. So I do want to check the chat. Is there a way for me to see everyone's messages? Could you just pop me a little message to make sure that, yeah, all good. Okay, great. That's amazing. Yeah, so can anyone maybe tell me where they're joining from, just to get the conversation going? I only see, okay, I only see messages. Oh, okay, no, there we go. Okay, oh, chat disabled. Okay, yeah, only Q&A is enabled. That's what I figured, because I can only see the chat from the team. Yes, thank you for mentioning that in the Q&A section. That's great. Okay, well, I guess that will get fixed in a minute. Oh yeah, that shouldn't be happening. Okay, well, that's all right. I'll still get briefly started, and if you have any questions, just pop them into the Q&A section. I'll have a look at them. But yeah, I'm going to start this workshop, and basically what you can expect today is that I will teach you how to make custom landmarker scans. I will also share some know-how on how to implement these custom landmarkers in any Lens Studio project, and also kind of how to make a lens compatible with Snap's guidelines, because there are a few things that you need to take into consideration. There's also a lot of things that I'm going to talk with occlusion, basically how to occlude large structures or buildings as in the process of making a lens with custom landmarkers. And also I'm going to teach you how to make this little ghost here appear and disappear out of my garden wall. Yes, and there will also be a little Q&A session at the end. So please, if you have any questions, just pop them into the Q&A tab and I will answer them as best as I can. To give you a little background about myself, my name's Arthur Bouffard. I'm an AR creative technologist / developer / yeah, I'm not sure what you want to call it. I'm currently working at Go Spooky, which is a social agency based in the Netherlands that does a lot of AR stuff. And I'm also a Snap AR ambassador, which is great. I'm originally French, and yeah, little fun fact about myself is that I'm really into surfing, but not only just the web, like actual surfing. So yeah, that's about me. I do want to mention that this workshop is sponsored by Snap, which is very cool of them. And yeah, I'll dive straight into some knowledge. First of all, before doing a dive into how to actually make a custom landmarker, I do want to point out a few things that you should consider before making one. You do need a LiDAR compatible phone to make these custom landmarkers. So usually that means one of the latest iPhones. The Pro models, unfortunately, only have the LiDAR sensor. And I do think it works on iPad Pros, but I would have to double check that. But what's great is that once the custom landmarker scan is made, any phone can be used to view these lenses. So it doesn't matter if you have a Samsung phone or any other brand, you can view these custom landmarkers in a lens. So that's not a problem. Another few things that you do need to consider is that when you go for a structure, you should be very considerate of lighting and shadows. So these are like two different things that can have a huge impact on the quality of the tracking later, because basically the way custom landmarkers work is that it's taking a bunch of pictures of your environment and then using that to compare kind of what your phone camera is seeing versus what was captured before. So if you do a capture on a really sunny day and you have a lot of shadows on a building, that's going to have a big impact on the quality of the tracking. Another thing to note is that reflections also do have an impact. So if you have, for instance, like really shiny windows or a car that has a very shiny tint with the sunlight, that's also going to make the tracking much worse. Another thing also that's kind of important is to the size of the structures that you want to scan. So basically, if you're scanning, let's say, a whole museum front or an entire house, that's not going to work that well. It's only, I would say, the limits of LiDAR, because this is using, LiDAR, is about 3 to 5 meters. So you do need to be considerate of that. But then there's other workarounds, which I will talk to later. But yeah, that's something you might want to consider. And also, yes, the scan size limit is only 10 megabytes, which is pretty good. But you do need to be considerate of that as well, which you will see in the next step. Is everyone still following? I see that I can't see the chat yet. So I can't really answer any questions. But yeah, I'll dive into the process, and just let me know in the Q&A section if you have any burning questions in there. Okay, great. I see people, Angelique. Okay, great. All right. So step 1 for doing custom landmarkers is that, well, you should get your you should get your LiDAR compatible phone here. Oh yeah, and before I get started, actually, have any of you used custom landmarkers before? Please let me know, because I know this is like not fairly common, and I'm really genuinely curious to see if people use this a lot. Oh yeah, okay. Some people are saying yes, Julian. Okay, awesome. So yeah, not total beginners. That's good. So I'll go briefly over this section on how to capture a custom landmarker. And yes, so this session 1 that I'm doing is more of like a surface level custom landmarker tutorial, but also kind of giving you some tips of like previous experiences I've had. But yeah, so to dive into the first step, the custom landmarker scanning process, you'll need to get your LiDAR compatible phone and scan this QR code here. I mean, this snap code. It basically will open this lens on your phone. So I will show you that with this video here. It's going to open this lens that is built on Lens Cloud, but which allows you to create these custom landmarkers in a fairly easy and straightforward process. And a first thing that you want to have a look at is the settings here. There's not that many things in there, but a few things that you should be considerate of. So like the sizes of your mesh and the size of like the perspective that you want to capture. So that's really like settings that will vary depending on what you want to capture. So for instance, if you want to get a statue with a lot of detail, you might want to get a bigger mesh size. So I do recommend usually maxing out these settings. Well, that will depend also on what you're trying to build. But also keeping the scanning style combined is overall like a better mode for me, I've found. And yeah, having it separated kind of puts like your meshes in different places, which can lead to glitches later. So I do recommend staying in combined. But as you can see here, yes, so you can change all of these settings in here. And yes, by default, I believe they are all set to medium. So yeah, I just maxed them out. And then, so a really important thing here as well, before you even open the lens, that you might want to consider, and this is not like very known, but when you open the lens for the first time, the position of your phone at that moment is going to have an impact on the thing that you're going to scan. So the way that this works is that having your phone, if you open your phone at a specific place, then in Lens Studio, the mesh that you're going to capture is going to be offset by where you open the lens. So if you want to scan, for instance, a building, you should open your phone straight facing towards the building and pretty close to where you're going to be doing the scan. So that's another thing that you need to consider that's not really known, because if you open it in, let's say, another room, and then you go outside and scan a wall, it's going to keep that initial position of the room and set it as 0, 0, 0 in Lens Studio, which makes things a bit awkward. So then when your lens is open, you can start creating the mesh. As you can see here, I was scanning my garden here. And what a good practice is also to get the floor, because when you're going to be placing objects in Lens Studio, you do want to have like that floor level, especially if you're going to do things like physics and all that. So that's something that's pretty good practice. And here, so I'm just scanning around, trying to get a bit of detail here. And as you see at the bottom, there is a storage limit bar. And that is like something that you also want to consider when doing these scans, is that, yes, there's that 10 megabyte storage. So depending on the project, you might want to prioritize perspectives versus the mesh. And to kind of explain the difference, because the words can be a bit confusing. The mesh is basically that LiDAR scan that you saw in the previous videos. Oh, chat should be open. Okay, let me see here. So try typing things in the chat so I can see if everyone can see. Okay. Oh, okay, great. Okay, Max. Hi, Max. Great. Okay, works. Sweet. That's cool. That's cool. From New York. Oh, wow. Okay, that's early. I mean, not too early, but yeah. Wow. Well, welcome. Yeah, thanks for attending. Great. Yeah, so if you just have any questions, yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mohammed. All right, awesome. So I'm good. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep going if you have any questions. So yeah, so with the perspectives here, that's another thing, as I was saying, that is really useful, because the perspectives basically are gonna allow your phone to know where you are. So I'll show that a bit later. But I recommend putting maybe a third of the capture as mesh, but then doing the rest as viewpoints. And here, as you can see, there's a lot of perspective captures that appear. And a good practice also, if you want people to kind of open this lens anywhere, is to capture perspectives that will not be in the experience. So as you see here, I was capturing my garden and, different areas that might be a bit awkward, but that would allow people to have a better scan. And then we have the review and upload section. So this is like a great testing tool to verify if the capture has been done correctly. So you can visualize the mesh here. And you can also see the viewpoints at the same time. And then a really neat feature that's implemented here as well, the features test mode, which shows you all these little dots that are, I think, basically reference points for your capture. And yeah, so as you can see here, when there's no features recognized, it will give you a little message at the bottom of the screen. And then when it recognizes features again, it means that the phone would be able to use the custom landmarker tracking at that point. And then, yeah, there's a little content section here where you can place roses by default, which is also a very, very neat feature. And then, yeah, the final step is to basically give a title to your landmarker. So here, just called it, garden wall. You might want to make more sophisticated names, because you're gonna find out, like, making these, you'll have to do a bunch of different attempts. So maybe numbering things or making more distinguished names is a good idea. But then, it will just get uploaded, and you'll get here a little location ID. So you want to hold on to that so you can take a screenshot, or you can always access it later. But this is what we're going to be using in Lens Studio to import these custom land markers. So as you can see here, there's also another thing that's pretty useful, is that you can actually go to the view your uploads section, and you'll see here all of these different uploads that you've done. So I've actually have 56 pages of uploads. So yeah, that's quite a bit. But when you click on the little view button, you can actually view the mesh. So this is really good. So it allows you to kind of check if you've made, let's say, like 10 different scans. You don't have to open them in Lens Studio every time. You can just use the uploaded section and kind of try them one by one and see which one works best. So I do really recommend using that. It took me a while to discover that you could do this. So yeah, that's a pretty neat thing to know. But yeah, apart from that, that's pretty much the scanning process from A to Z. So let me know if, yeah, you have any questions. Yeah, it's a lot of, like, all of these tips, they come from trial and error. So yeah, you'll find, maybe you'll find different tips and tricks that kind of work better. But that's, from my experience, this is what works quite well. So yeah, I guess that's that. And for the next section, I guess we can dive into the lens development. So as you can see here, you'll have to use your custom land marker ID. So for this project, I'm using this one, which is the one I captured. And yeah, every ID is unique. So you do have that. Also, I think they're interoperable. So if you have a different person with a different account do a capture, you can use that ID on another account. So that could always be useful for if you want to have someone at the other end of the world do a capture. But yeah, I guess I'm going to switch into Lens Studio and explain the process of how to make a project with this. All right, I'll try to make this as smooth as possible. And yeah, like, if you have any questions, let me know. I will try to share only a section of my screen so I can monitor the chat here. But yeah, this is a bit of a transition, but there we go. All right. So that is the window. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Apologies for the not very smooth transition. But yeah, I got it. So what you want to do now is that I really recommend, when you start with any project that uses custom land markers, is to directly dive into the template for custom land markers. So there's a really well-made template directly in Lens Studio that I really recommend using, because it kind of sets up everything for your lens to be compatible. Because if you, oh, there it is, full screen. If you upload your lens directly as it is right now, the main issue is that you're gonna get rejected because there's one or two steps that you need to take before making sure your lens will work on Snapchat. And the first one is, yes, getting this template. And we will start by just putting your little ID here. So as well, you want to type out, go into location tracking here, which I believe is cropped. Apologies for that. And go to the custom location ID here. So you will get this location ID prompt. And so here you want to actually enter the number that you got on your phone. So in this case, I will enter mine up VA269. So every number is unique. And then when that happens, there you go. You should see the mesh of the custom land marker actually appear. So as you can see here, what I was pretty smart with when making this capture is that I made it so I opened my phone directly in front of the wall. So it's properly aligned. But in some cases, you'll see if you don't open your phone exactly lined up with the wall, it's going to create a strange effect where things are going to be a bit out of sync. So then I have here my location mesh, and I would say the first good practice to do here is just drag and drop the mesh into this section, so number 4. And so you see there's this empty landmarker mesh here, and we're actually going to remove this and go straight into the custom landmark object here. And you'll want to go in the advanced settings and drag and drop the landmarker mesh here. So from that, you're going to be able to also go to the camera, and we want to get rid of there's this thing that happens sometimes. Device tracking gets added twice. So you want to delete that one. It doesn't change much, but it's a bit easier for later. And you also want to delete this device location tracking and just leave this one. So that should keep giving us a few errors, which is normal. And you're going to want to go here and actually select the device tracking here. So number 2, which is the one that we just added by putting in the location ID. So that fixes an error that showed up here. And then what's really neat here is that we also have this hint controller. So if I select here these different landmarker states, you're able to kind of test the custom landmarker lens without being on location. So if I do landmarkers near, I get this little UI hint that is quite common for most custom landmarker or landmark experiences. So you have landmarkers far, landmarkers loading. And so if you go into the hint controller here, you can give a name to your landmarker, because, you know, if I click on here, it just basically says point at, well, replace me. So we don't want that. I'm just going to call it garden wall. And then you should see it should upload that, update that directly. Then when that's done, you can also, okay, so this is also pretty handy. You can replace this icon here. So in this case, I'm actually going to be using, give me a second here. I'm actually going to be using another icon that I have made, which is actually on my desktop here. I'll just drag and drop it here. Oh, apologies. And also, okay, no, we can leave that there. For now, we just need this icon. So we go into the hint controller, and we have this little, so I just made this very quickly in Photoshop, but it's basically a rounded version of where the lens needs to be pointed at. So I can just drop it into here. And yeah, that gives you like this little preview. So it's recommended to actually get like a little 2D graphic icon, but for this, I just took a picture, which is also fine. And yeah, the last thing that's really important here is that you want to add a marker. So this is the required step for the custom landmarker lenses, which will get you rejected if you don't have it. So you do want to go in the settings here, and I do apologize, it's getting cropped, but you want to get an image marker. So I get one here, and I will give you a little prompt. And if you click on the marker here, which is basically that same image, it should import it as an image marker right here. And then it's as simple as drag and dropping it into the marker section. And the last thing you need to do is also update this, which is the location ID. So as you can see, when I imported the custom landmarker, it generated all of these different resources. So it's as easy as just dragging it here. And you can actually process through this like on an error by error basis. So until there's still like little errors showing up here in the logger, then you should follow these different steps. And yeah, when that's done, you basically have a lens that you can submit as a custom landmarker. Yeah, if anyone has any questions about this, it's pretty straightforward. It just takes a bit of time to figure these things out. But yeah, that's the basic gist of it. And yeah, from that, so we're gonna actually do the little animation ghost effect. So basically using this whole mesh that we see here as an occluder. which is usually a pretty good use case for these custom landmarker meshes. So what I want to do here is actually delete these two balloons that we have, which come in a template. And I will add this asset called Ghost Boy, which I found on Sketchfab, and it's a great little asset. We'll import it now. Just have it here. There we go. And from that, so it's GLTF, so it's always going to be called scene. We have a giant ghost with a little book on his head that appears. So we're gonna just rename him real quick. Oh, or not. Just call him Ghost. And yeah, we can lock the scale, make him a bit smaller. And what I want to do is basically use this mesh as a way for the ghost to appear and disappear out of the wall. So a good thing to note as well is that moving the mesh, it doesn't really work with custom landmarkers. You need to move all of your assets to the mesh. So it makes things sometimes a bit complicated. So I do recommend when you do a custom landmarker scan, be sure to have your final custom landmarker before you dive into any development, or else it's going to be a bit complicated to adjust everything. And if you have scripting in there as well, it's with world tracking, it's going to make things a whole lot worse. So do be sure that you have the right mesh before building your project. But from there, you can, I'm just going to move the ghost here and place him to, oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. And basically, yeah, place the ghost so towards the floor here. There we go. So that's the good part of having scan the floor here, is that I know exactly where I can place the ghost. I will rotate him to face the wall. And I guess to make things a bit simpler here, we can use tweens to just have this simple animation. So I will have a script and look for the transform script. And yeah, this is another thing that you might want to note, is that sometimes when you, I don't know if this has happened to you before, but with some of these templates, not all of the tween scripts get imported. So what you might want to do is add again another tween manager, and that will add all of the missing tween scripts that you might want to use later. So as you can see here, yeah, there we go. Just gets added. I'll put it up here and remove the examples. We don't need that. And then when I select the ghost and add the script here, we should get the tween transform, which is what we want. Then what we can do, oh wow, still massive here. What we can do is add the ghost and just basically make him move in a loop. So I will change the movement as an offset, make it additive, so it like goes back and forth. And from there on, I think we should move him in the Z direction. I think this workshop is recorded. So if you have any doubts about how to do this, then it'll be up, I think, on YouTube. So you can always go back to that. But yeah, just to keep on going here, I will make the ghost move in the Z direction. Okay, yes. So I do need to change this setting to make it landmarker found. All right, there we go. So now, you should see the ghost somewhere. Oh, okay, wait. Maybe it's moving a little too fast. Oh, there we go. All right, so there's the ghost, and it's doing its whole movement right now. But we don't want him to go this way. We actually want him to go towards the house. So I'll just make this -200. All right, and now you can see it walks into the wall and basically, well, kind of disappears. But yeah, so what we want to do next is actually make him rotate here. All right, yes. So, oh, I want to change the loop type actually. There we go, loop. And then just add another tween transform, so another script. There we go. another transform, and reselect the scene object, do it play automatically here, do it in a loop as well. And because we want to make this happen, so make it rotate, let's do offset again, make it additive again. And so if we do rotation of 180, which should make it turn around. Oh, well, there we go. That's nice. Now it keeps on rotating. But let's do it in a delay. So every 9 seconds, then it should go inside the wall here, make a rotation, and then come back out. Hopefully. Yeah, there we go. Oh, hey, that's not supposed to happen. Oh, yeah, I see why this is happening. It shouldn't be additive. There we go. That should work. All right. Let's hope so. Oh, all right, not quite. Not quite. Yeah, I think I know why. It shouldn't be in a loop. It should be ping pong, I think. Oh yeah. Well, let's make sure. But yeah, basically you want to have him go in there. Just a matter of tweaking a few settings. All right, there we go. Now it does what we want. And yeah, the last step for this to really make the whole experience look interesting on your phone is that we're gonna want to make the mesh basically hide the ghost behind our wall. And what's really nice here is that there's a lot of detail in the wall that I was able to capture. So even if you have like, let's say like a pipe or a table or something, that could also occlude the ghost and make him hide behind that mesh. And so that is quite simple. You can just, well, we can't see it, but go type occluder and basically imports this occluder material. And what we can do here is basically just drag and drop it. And there we go. Now the ghost is invisible and seems to be coming out of the wall. Another little neat trick also is that if you want the mesh to be used, let's say in a situation where people are able to go behind the mesh, so let's say a statue or even a door, you might want to make the occluder two-sided. So that will make sure that even if I walk towards here, it would also seem like the ghost is coming out of the wall. Because if I disable that, so as you can see, the ghost is going to walk back out. But if I disable it, I'm going to be able to see him still. So that's a little other detail that you might want to consider when making these. But yeah, apart from that, that's pretty much the whole gist of it. So do let me know if you have any questions. I'll go back to the power to the little slideshow I had here. There we go. Oopla. And from there, yeah, the screen sharing method isn't ideal. Apologies. And from there on, we can actually see the final results. So yeah, this was the final lens here. And as you can see here, it even detects that little section of the wall and goes and hides behind that. So if I walk up here, the world tracking is still in use, and you should be able to see him kind of walk out of the wall in a second. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, that's that. Yeah. If you have any questions in the chat, please let me know. I guess we can, yeah, start the Q&A session. I can also share some knowledge from my previous experiences. So yeah, do let me know. Yeah, thanks for attending. But yeah, in general, custom landmarkers are really, really interesting technology. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it was really fun to host this. Yeah, I've used custom landmarkers quite a bit in the past months, and making these location based AR experiences is really, I think it's going to be more and more common in the future. So it's definitely stuff that you want to get familiar with, because I think it's going to be like used in a worldwide scale. Okay, let me see. Any tips? Oh, a lot of questions. All right. Oh yeah, this is really interesting actually. Any tips on scanning smaller objects like a small to medium statue? Yeah, actually. So for that, I would say also try to start in like a fairly close distance of the statue and having it like perpendicular, I would guess, or parallel to that statue, and getting all the little details. I would spend more time on the mesh, and maybe a bit less time on the viewpoints. So definitely something to consider. If that statue is made out of any glossy material, that's also something you might want to avoid. So a little trick that you can do, which I've done in the past, is that you can actually scan as a mesh the area around it, like that object that is shiny, or it also applies to really big buildings. And then if you're, if you're really motivated, you can do a photogrammetry scan of that building and then recreate it as an occluder. So make it like in Blender and go full out, remake the entire structure more or less, and use that as an occluder instead of the mesh. And for large buildings, that might be very useful. Or for a statue, if you even have a copy of that statue in 3D, then use that directly as an occluder. That's also very good thing to use. And you could scan the base of that statue, for instance. So yeah, that would be my advice. I don't have a lot of experience with smaller things, but as long as they're fixed to the ground, that's the best thing you should look out for. So yeah, that's another thing I didn't mention, actually, you reminded me, is that custom land markers also kind of work with GPS. So if you have, for instance, you decide to scan, let's say, like a truck or a car, that is a thing that you want to consider. Like if that thing moves, it's not going to work anymore, because also it's going to use, because those viewpoints that it captures are going to have an impact on how it works, basically. Okay, I'm just switch to other questions. What do you think has been the most effective? Oh, wait a second. What do you think has been the most effective experience you've used them for? That's a really good question. I don't know, but I think, yeah, one of the ones that stood out the most is a project I did at work, where we had to scan a huge gallery, and it's to track that huge gallery wasn't easy, but we basically had to go through that route of creating. So this also answers another question from YouTube, which is scanning builders that are 6 or 8 meters high. So a good thing you might want to do here, and what I did for that experience, is that you scan a smaller section of the building, maybe an area that people are going to look at a lot. Let's say like a specific window or a door, and you scan around that area as a mesh. You get a mesh as small as possible, but then for that building, you're going to want to walk away and do as many viewpoints as you can, and really max out the viewpoints, because that's like the most important. Because if someone opens that experience and doesn't point it exactly at where you were scanning, then it's not going to work. So you do want to get a very small mesh, but then a lot of viewpoints. And then for something that's 6 to 8 meters tall, I guess, make a photogrammetry model of it. And if you want to get really good scale, also do a LiDAR scan of the building in a different app, and then use Blender, kind of mash everything together and build like an occluder for that. I think that's the best approach if you plan on occluding things, but I think that's usually the case. So yeah, that's also another question that's kind of related to that, which is, have you ever tried to use the combined custom land marker feature? Do you mean in that sense combining different custom landmarkers into one lens, because I don't think that is possible at the moment. So I was also trying to do that. I don't think you can do it. But what you might be able to do is kind of switch them on and off. So with code, basically have different custom landmarkers in different objects, and then kind of just like have a like tap to switch, or maybe like if you do a specific gesture, I don't know, maybe switch to a different tracking mode. But I'm afraid that would create some glitches here and there. So I don't know how good that is. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. But I haven't been able to do it properly. But yeah, no, as Caitlin was saying, yeah, structures of up to 3 meters in height is usually recommended. So yeah, you wanna take that into consideration. Another question from Angelique: can you create hotspot targets on that mesh that can trigger different activities or animations? Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure what you mean by hotspot targets. Is it like spawning things on the mesh, or yeah, could you maybe elaborate on that? Because you can have a thing where when it detects the custom landmarkers, the animations start. So that is possible. Circling back to Julian, not really. I'm talking about the add button that allows to add more perspective to an existing scan. Oh, yeah. No, I actually haven't used that because I think that's a relatively new feature. Or maybe I'm wrong. But I think it's meant to capture more viewpoints of what I've heard. So basically, if let's say the lighting conditions change for a specific capture, then you might want to add let's say perspectives with shadows and stuff like that. Yes. The more you, oh yeah, that's what you're saying. The more perspectives you add, the more tracking can be glitchy. Yes, so that does make sense. Liam. All right, sorry. Yeah, no, so yeah, as you're saying, Julian, yeah, I've heard that it's not optimal yet, because it's basically the way that it works is that it's kind of this model builds your tracking for your custom landmarker. And if you do add more viewpoints for a different building, it's gonna mess things up a little bit. So I've heard it's mostly for lighting conditions, and you should probably be taking more viewpoints for the same areas that you've done before. So I'm not sure. I haven't experimented with it that much, but I'll check it out. See how good that is. Cool. And Ron is asking, will this work on next gen spectacles? So I don't think it does. Maybe I'm wrong, because I was seeing in Lens Studio there, I'm now automatically the template goes to supporting spectacles, the next gens, but I don't think it is currently. Okay, so let's see. For instance, tap to open a window and a ghost pops out, and tap to open the door and a skeleton flies out. Yes, Angelique, yes. So that is totally doable. And actually, that kind of goes with the next session that I will do in, I think, about 2 weeks, which is exactly about that. So I'm going to be kind of, well, spoiling a little bit, but sharing how to tap a window and something will happen to that window. And yeah, it kind of goes with that. You can absolutely do that because it detects exactly where you're tapping on your screen, and yeah, that translates to the world positions. So that does work. Yeah. Okay, awesome. No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Happy to help. But yeah, let me know if you have any other questions. But okay. Oh, okay. Okay, great. So yeah, it is compatible with next gen spectacles. Okay, that's what I figured, because it kind of appeared in my Lens Studio window. So that's awesome. Happy to hear that. Cool. Cool. So that's really interesting, actually, the kind of experiences you'll be able to make with that. Huh. Brilliant. All
Hey,
right.
Arthur. Actually, Caitlin from AR Developer Relations just popping in here. I actually meant this is the full feature compatibility with next generation spectacles. I realize how it's
Oh,
confusing though. So if you go into it, you can see what all Lens Studio resources are compatible with spectacles. But if you search within their Command F custom landmarkers, unfortunately, it's not supported. Apologies for that confusion. If you ever want to know what is compatible, this is where we go to.
oh, my bad.
Apologies.
Yeah. I glanced over that and I thought it was, but okay, I'm wrong on that one. All right. Yeah, apologies for that. Okay. Oh, that's good to know. I don't have a pair myself, so yeah. All right. Awesome. Um, yeah, if anyone has any other questions, please let me know. Uh, but yeah, I do. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, see you, Julian. Thank you for joining. Oh yeah, if you want to end a bit early, that's fine. Yeah, yeah, I could ramble about this, but yeah, I don't think that would bring any productivity. But I guess we could end this session a bit earlier if that's fine with everyone. And yeah, if you have any questions for the next session, please, yeah, just write them down and shoot them next week, in 2 weeks, and I will yeah, I will try to answer them as best as possible. Yeah, thank you so much for attending, everyone. I will see you in 2 weeks.